Here's CNN discussing all this.
I'm not sure people are losing their minds over players doing the Trump dance on the field. It's fine. But they did lose their minds when NFL players like Colin Kaepernick did not take a political stance, but took a social justice stance. There's a distinction between those two things.
Justice.
It is interesting that there's been this big turnaround.
Jennings.
Yeah, it is. You know, you look at all the times that any player was kneeling or anything, you know, they all
disrespecting our country.
Kind of conviction within themselves that this is what I believe.
There's a big difference between thumbing your nose at the country and our flag and our national anthem and
it wasn't about social
supporting
justice.
the person who was just elected president of the United States. God, all right, let him finish. We can get through this.
Is what I'm going to do. They articulated it very well to the media, starting with Colin Kaepernick. And you saw the video where a lot of the media, the conservative media and conservatives were really pushing against these NFL players to
disrespect
get
for
them
the country.
to stop
we were
talking about politics. But then, you know, you fast forward to today, and people are having a little fun with the Trump dance. Now, the Trump dance is it's kind of it's weird, it's new-ish, and it's ridiculous. So which also makes it trendy.
Right? Yeah, it's like a TikTok dance.
Yeah, it is right. And so I don't think that's going to be something that players are going to be doing into next year. It's just kind of something new that players are doing, and they all when you make a play, you celebrate. You want to do something that's fun and trendy, and they're doing the Donald Trump dance because that's the fun and trendy thing.
I don't think it's right to equate this Trump dance, which I agree with you, it's kind of a fun, trendy thing that's going on, with the overt political statements that some players were attempting to make, but then also these whole sort of cultural movements that were built around some of these players to try to force everyone else to participate in it. I see these things as totally different. I don't see these players necessarily participating in politics as much as they are just sort of participating in the current pop culture. I think they're two totally different things. And these players are not out there trying to browbeat their teammates into joining them if they don't want to.
Yes.
Scott Jennings, a voice of reason on CNN.
Yeah.
As always.
Yeah, it's surprising he hasn't been fired yet.
And they keep bringing him back as a
they do.
That's
panelist.
because
the audience,
they need him.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
They need him. And here's more wisdom from Scott Jennings as he talked about all of these meetings Democrats are having with Donald Trump.
I'm amazed. I did not expect Hitler to get so many meeting requests. First from Joe Biden, now from Mika and Joe. It's amazing that literal Hitler is getting all these meeting requests. And what it tells me, Professor, is that all the rhetoric that came from the left, from the Democrats, from the White House, from Kamala Harris and everyone else before the election, all of the rhetoric, the fascism, the Hitler, the Nazi rally, it was all a bunch of BS. They didn't mean any of it. And if I were in the Democrat sort of rabble's shoes, I would be looking at all my leaders and going, did you just BS me for an entire 6 weeks before the election?
Wow. That's got to be tough for him because it's 5 or 6 to 1 every single day.
He puts up the fight, though, man.
He does. He does it bravely. That's great. Meanwhile, Charlemagne said something similar to his audience within the last week.
Donald Trump wins the election. We all know that.
Yeah.
He was in the White House this week, right? Joe Biden literally was like, welcome back, right?
Home, baby.
Okay.
Home, baby.
And
home, baby.
And even in the Vice President Kamala Harris's concession speech, she talked about how, she's there to help the next administration, peaceful transfer of power, all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
So I observed those two things. I observed not just the White House, but then the speech that President Biden gave and the speech the Vice President Kamala Harris gave. And so I asked a simple question. The question I asked was,
what'd you ask?
Well, what happened to all the threat of democracy talk?
Yeah.
What happened to the talk of him being a fascist? I'm speaking, I literally am speaking about those two people in particular. That's why I say you would think in those speeches that they gave that they would have said, hey, y'all left up America. Things are about to be a bumpy ride for y'all.
Yeah.
But it was none of that.
It was really just boxing.
What do you mean?
They just were promoting a fight. You know how when the fighters talk crazy to each other, the second the fight is over, they're hugging each other, kissing each other, taking selfies.
Well, that's the question I asked. Did they really believe those things? And when I say they, I'm talking about Vice President Kamala Harris and President Biden, because people always take clips and cut them up,
of course,
right, and take them out of context. Because I'm speaking in particular about those two individuals and the two speeches they gave. That's why if you listen to the clip, if you listen to it in its full context, I say you would think in their speeches
they would have mentioned
something about him being a threat to democracy in America. Y'all effed up, whatever.
Yeah, go. Now, I think you showed some support to the new administration. You were like, hey, we gotta.
It's support to America.
Yeah,
He's the president of the United States.
Say that again. Say that again.
He's the president of the United States of America.
Thank you. That's funny.
He confuses me though because
he's struggling. He's battling inside.
Yeah.
There's a struggle.
There's definite conflict there.
Yeah.
Sometimes he almost seems pro-Trump. Other times, I mean, I think he endorsed Kamala, did he not?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird.
It does, and because he likes capitalism.
Yes.
Obviously.
Of course he does.
Breakfast
He's making
Club.
millions of dollars a year.
That's where he's torn.
Capitalism is great.
That's where he's torn.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how he sits on that podcast?
Kind of laid back.
That's not laying back. That guy is sleeping, bro.
I know. Look at that.
You know?
He is very comfortable.
But
and
I think
this one must be different from. Does he have a podcast and a radio show? Is that why?
So this is the other guy's podcast.
Oh,
this is not Charlemagne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy?
So Charlemagne just stopped
I believe
by.
he's a comedian or something. Probably Joe knows.
Seems like a Trump supporter.
Yes, he is. He was one of the podcasters that interviewed Trump.
Oh yeah, was he in the Tesla with him, or is that?
No, that's another kid.
Okay,
That's the
yeah.
other
All
kid.
right, sorry.
It's so hard to keep track of podcasts when every living organism on the planet
you,
has
Pat
one.
Gray.
How do you keep them straight?
Oh,
You
it's
can't.
difficult.
You can't.
It's difficult.
Or it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, usually I know when I see the amoeba in Pocatello, I usually know. Well, that's the amoeba
That's the
in
amoeba.
Pocatello's
Pocatello
podcast.
podcast. Yeah.
But-
RowdyMaid.com has the amoeba and Pocatello merchandise.
glasses.
Don't forget. So I think Charlemagne sees the writing on the wall, hopefully, of where America is headed, particularly people in his demographic.
Yeah.
And I think he's like, oh crap, I better get on this boat because I do think that the message is getting through to him to some degree, but I think he's also seeing that I don't know, young black men they're not playing the Democrat game anymore.